Whenever you're ready.
All right. Did you know that by simply looking at the color red, that you can raise your metabolism and blood sugar, or pressure, not sugar? Color is not only one of the biggest parts in our day-to-day life, but it is also one of the biggest influences as well. By the end of my speech, I hope you will know more about the power that color has and be able to use it to your advantage. Today, I'm going to be talking about what you can do with individual colors, about color scheming and paletting, and how color is used in our day-to-day lives. All right, so when it comes to working with color, the first thing you clearly have to do is choose the colors you want to work with. And with each color represents its own individual feeling or aspect with it. Like for an example, the color red can represent anger, passion, and love, while the color orange can represent vitality, energy, happiness. And then a color like green can represent life and nature. Barry Mound, who is the author of the illusory theory of colors, argues that although color is just what is refracted from the light or bounced back and all that, he argues that color can be taken individually for its own aspect. And there's a lot of debate between people saying that color isn't a real thing and shouldn't be treated as such, and that it should be. So there's an anti-realist theory behind it. But he argues that color should be taken as a real thing because of the fact that it has such a big role on our day-to-day and the way that color is perceived by everyone, not just as light. And so once you go about and decide whatever you're needing your color or whatever for, you still have a lot to do with your color once you pick it. So picking a color naturally, or hue is the way it's kind of phrased, you don't really want to use a color with just a natural hue because it can be described as too much, but at the same time being boring and bland. And so the ways you want to go about changing your chosen color are through adjusting your chroma, your saturation, the value, the tone, the shade, and the tint of the color. These are all very important in their own contrast because not only do you want your color to get the right appeal, like for an example, if you are going to go out somewhere, you don't necessarily want to draw attention to yourself. You're not going to wear like a cherry red jacket that day or something. But at the same time, if you do want something to be noticed, then you don't want to just wear a gray scheme out wherever you're going or use that in your project. And so the other thing is that knowing all the values, like the chroma value and all that with your color, is important, not only because of what you want your color to do, but because of how you want it to blend with your other colors. Which gets to my next point about blending your colors together and creating color palettes. All right, Cameron Chapman, on her article on creating color schemes, talks about her processes of teaching, creating color patterns, and color patterns you can already use. And so she says the best way to go about it is to choose the colors you're going to use between three main color schemes, which are monochromatic, which is like a series of the just 12 colors in the color circle. Analogous, which are 2 to 3 colors within the color circle and all the shades in between those. And then complementary, which are colors that are on the opposite sides of the color circle. But in addition to these, there are still many more combinations you can use, like split complementary, triadic, double complementary, and so on and so forth. When creating your color palette, it's very important going back to the tint and the tone and all of those, because you want all of those values to be the same and relative to each other. Because, for an example, like using two natural colors on the opposite ends of your spectrum, while that'll make a really big contrast, if you put them right next to each other, it's going to, in a sense, look rough, and it's not even going to give you the perception of a straight line. You'll see jags and curves that aren't really there within the colors. So Cameron suggests that you can do things like adding another color into your scheme as a filter, or that you can do things like, if you have pictures you really like and want to use those in a presentation, so to speak, you can use these Photoshop apps they have to pick the colors out of your picture and use those as your sources of formatting for it. She suggests that no matter what you do with your palette or how you create it, you limit your colors to a number of 5, because you want enough that it keeps it interesting and not too bland, but you don't want to overwhelm the people as well. All right, and so now that I have gone over the color palettes and what you can do with color, I'm going to be going over to why it all matters in the first place. The website Color Matters gives some really good statistics into why you should be so worried about the color in the first place around us. They say that before anything else when it comes to marketing and brands, that the first thing you will always notice and remember about a brand is its color, not its shape or anything like that. 80% of people will remember the color before anything else on a brand. And also 60% of people will decide based off of color alone whether they like something or do not like it. For example, if you look at all the laundry detergents they have out there, the main two colors you will see are orange and blue. And that is because the color blue is associated with cleanliness and calmness, and the color orange with dynamic energy, relating in your subconscious, meaning that you're going to perceive that as clean and powerful. And then with most brands you see, like McDonald's for an example, they use the strong red and yellow, which are the two most eye-catching colors, but red is the color that keeps your attention when you see it. And so, although most of you may not be needing to know any of this with color right now, it's important to know what color can do, because it could be the difference between making something successful or just getting glanced over and moved on.